Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to Introduction to Philosophy 1301. I'm going to give you a little introduction about myself and then also about the course to help you get ready for the upcoming semester. I'm Dr. Ford, and I am the department chair and also professor of philosophy for the Navarre College system. If you take any course in philosophy during your time here at Navarre College, all the instructors are under my supervision. I help construct the courses, the curriculum, etc. Also, what I'm going to do right now is give you a little bit of information about myself, about my family, and also about the course in general. My education background, this will help give you context in some things we'll be talking about this coming semester. First of all, this is me and my wife. I struck the mother lode when my wife agreed to marry me. She's a wonderful wife, a wonderful mother. She also works for Navarre College. If you get any kind of financial assistance right now, she is the one who gets the money from the government and also distributes it to the student. Now here's the deal. A lot of times students get upset because they don't get the money from the government as quickly as they'd like to. Well, the question you need to ask yourself if you're one of those students is, did you get your information in on time? The reason that's very important is that the federal government takes its own sweet time. It's got its own deadlines, and no matter how much my wife may ask them to speed up your money, they do it on their own timetable. If you get it in on time, it should never be any problem to get the money from the government that you should be receiving. So always make sure you meet the deadlines that are set by the federal government. Here's a picture of my family. Okay, if you've already seen my wife pictures, to the right you see my son. My son is a graduate of Corsicana High School. He was valedictorian there. He graduated in 2007. After he graduated from CHS, he was recruited to go debate for Baylor University. During his last 2 years there, he was one of the top debaters for Baylor University, which is rated in the top 20 schools normally in the United States in the area debate. He got his Bachelor of Science in Economics, and then he did something very smart. He's very good with mathematics. So if you're good with mathematics, please take note of this. He then went and took a year-long master levels course degree at North Carolina State University. There, he got, again, his Master of Science in Analytics. This is a very hot degree. If you like mathematics, listen to this. It's a very hot degree. After he graduated there after 1 year of studies, he was immediately snatched up by United Airlines and worked in the tallest building in North America in the Willis Tower, formerly the Sears Tower. Because of that, I was able to fly free to England, around the United States. Could have flown almost anywhere free because of that job. The next year, he was recruited by ERCOT, which manages the energy system grid for 90% of Texas, everything except for El Paso. The next year, he was recruited by NRG, one of the top energy conglomerates in the world. He is now a senior analyst and is doing very, very well, extraordinarily well for a young man his age. That's my son. To the right of my son is my daughter-in-law. She also is a graduate of Baylor. As good as a debater as my son was, she was even better. She has the distinction of her and her partner defeating the #1 team in the world from Great Britain. I was there the day it happened. Would probably beat them in the future? I don't know, maybe not. But that day they did, and you only had to win one game to win the Super Bowl, and that's exactly what they did. Later on in the course of the semester, I will tell you how they defeated the #1 team in the world. To the left is my daughter. My daughter also is a debater. All three of my son and daughter-in-law, they're all debaters. She was actually recruited by Baylor to debate, but opted out to go to UNT instead and major in English. Now listen to those of you who like English. They're finding that people who are good at English are also good at coding, computer coding. As a result, she is now a expert in the area of cybersecurity because of her English background. So although you may be majoring in English, coding and cybersecurity may actually be your forte. Now my wife is holding our pride and joy. This is our grandson. He just turned 3 years old and he is very, very sharp. We're very excited that he's a part of the family now. What about my education background? I'm sharing this with you because, ladies and gentlemen, I will be speaking from a certain perspective throughout the course of the semester. Now, I'm going to be introducing you to other perspectives as well. Not a course in which we indoctrinate people. We expose you. Now, we give you the tools to help you know how to process claims and beliefs and ideas, but again, we will expose you to different viewpoints so you can come to your own decision on what you believe to be true. But I come from a certain perspective, and these schools I studied at have made a major impact on my life. The first one is the University of Texas in Austin. I am a Longhorn fan, a big-time Longhorn fan. There I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Education, and my primary focuses are going to be education, biology, and also chemistry. Chemistry was my favorite course I took there at UT. You go, well, why are you teaching philosophy if you majored in science at University of Texas? I'm glad I did. The reason I'm glad I did is that today there are many scientists who feel because they are experts in the area of physics or maybe biology that they are therefore experts in the area of philosophy. That's just not true. Because you're an expert in philosophy does not make you an expert in physics, and because you're an expert in English doesn't make you an expert in mathematics. So it's good to be able to hear and understand what the scientists are saying and see if they really hold up when they transfer over into philosophy. Next is Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. I got my master's and my PhD there at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. My PhD is actually split between biblical studies, especially New Testament, and also philosophy. There's a man I met there. I studied under my mentor. His name is Yandel Woodfin. He's my main mentor in philosophy. He got his bachelor's degree in philosophy from Baylor University, a very fine school in philosophy. He later went on and got his master's at Princeton University, one of the top schools in the United States and in the world. He studied under Emile Caillet. Next, he went to Edinburgh University, there in Scotland, and got his doctorate there, studied with F.F. Torrance and also MacIntyre. But more importantly, he went to Cambridge University, and at Cambridge he studied under one of the greatest minds of the last at least 100 years, if not for the last 800 years. I'll share more about him in a moment. I've also gotten studies with Baylor University with Dr. Robert Sloan, also Cambridge University there in England, and also Oxford University. I wanted to study especially with Oxford University because I wanted to know if I could hang out with the big boys. That is the #1 school in the world in philosophy. And I actually took this course and the ethics course that we teach at Revere College at Oxford University. Now, I share these things with you, not because I say they make me smart, because they don't. People are smart or they're not smart. And many of you are very, very smart. You have just not been trained, and my job is to train you. But Oxford and Cambridge and University of Texas, Southwestern, Baylor, they've given me such wonderful exposure to wonderful ideas, perspectives, and training. And all I am doing is transferring that training, that background to you so that you can take advantage of it without having to go to Oxford, Cambridge, etc. I said that my main mentor in philosophy was Yandel Woodfin from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. I told you he studied at Baylor, Princeton, and also Edinburgh, and later went and studied at Cambridge University. He went there to study with again, what I consider one of the greatest minds of the last 800 years, C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis was teaching at Cambridge during his latter years. He had taught for many years at Oxford and later was grabbed by Cambridge to teach there. That is incredible that he had taught at the two greatest universities in the world. Now, many of you are probably puzzled, going, why would you care about what C.S. Lewis thought and taught? Many of you are familiar with Lewis only through his children's writings. He wrote what is called the standard of children's writings called The Chronicles of Narnia. Many of you may have read the books or may have seen the movie The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian, or maybe The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. He wrote these books. C.S. Lewis, though, actually wrote in every genre of literature there is. He may be most popular for the children's book, but he wrote in science fiction. He wrote many critical essays in the area of English literature, philosophy, etc. In fact, I did not have a lot of respect for Lewis until about 15 years ago. I'd studied him over 40 years ago, getting a master's and also a PhD, but really did not have the respect for him until later I found out about his education background. He actually got 3 degrees from Oxford University. Now, normally it takes a student anywhere between 4 to 5 years to get a degree. He got all 3 degrees from Oxford, the #1 school in the world, in a total of 5 years. That is phenomenal. What would normally take many people to get 1 degree, he did it in 5 years. Not only that, but he also got what you'd call a 4.0, graduate summa cum laude in all 3 degrees. That is so impressive. His first degree was actually philosophy. In fact, he actually taught philosophy first at Oxford University before going on to other areas. After that, he got his second degree in also ancient cultures, history, and also in, finally, English literature, where he taught English for over 20 years at Oxford and later at Cambridge University. But his first degree, again, was in philosophy, and therefore he has made a tremendous impact in the area of philosophy. Of all the people I've read, he has probably had the greatest impact upon the way I think. Now, what is the textbook required for this course? It is From Plato to Plantinga. Now, I wrote the textbook. You go, well, why did you write it? Well, first of all, I have a PhD, and that's what that degree is for research and writing. Okay, so therefore, that's the reason I write it. There's another reason, though. Ladies and gentlemen, the textbook they had us teaching out of when I first came here 14 years ago, today it costs $250. That is ridiculous. The reason that's ridiculous is that most of the readings in the textbook were actually coming out from primary sources you can find on the internet. So you're paying for readings you could get free on the internet. That, I think, is horrible. That should not have happened. Now, the reason I wrote this textbook is because of many of the reasons. Cost is number one. Number two, though, is this. If you get a textbook today in philosophy, they take one or two approaches. First of all, one tries to indoctrinate you, tries to tell you what to think. For example, the book, I Think, by Simon Blackburn, was the textbook used by Oxford University. It was very much about indoctrination, wanting you to believe his viewpoint. Or the other approach they take many times is they just give you these readings from major philosophers. Again, they can be found on the internet, but they don't help you know how to process them. And therefore, it's important that you know how to process these readings. And so therefore, I want to give you the tools to know how to read these readings and process them before you come to some kind of decision. And some of the readings, you may go, oh, this sounds great. But when you actually go deeper and start analyzing them further, you go, well, maybe they don't quite hold up as well as you would think they would. So that's the reason we have this textbook. Okay, what about attendance? Now let's go to more of the nitty-gritty. First of all is this. attendance is mandatory. You've got to come to class. Now, if you miss more than 2 weeks of class consecutively, then you may be dropped from the class. It may not drop you, but you're in danger of being dropped if you miss more than 2 weeks consecutively. Also, you need to be in class for another reason. From time to time, you'll have certain assignments that can be taken only during class. For example, you may need to read a chapter before the next class period, and you'll have a test on that, okay? It'll be open book, you can use your book, but it can only be taken during class. So therefore, if you're not in class, you cannot take the little quiz, and that can really affect and hurt your grade. Now, you are allowed a certain number of absences without being danger dropped from the class. Now, 2 weeks consecutive, no, you're in serious trouble. Now, for example, if your class meets twice a week with me, like for example, a Monday, Wednesday class, you can miss a total of 4 absences, okay? Now, if your class meets only once a week, for example, on Monday class, you're allowed to miss 2 classes. If you miss more than those, you're in danger of being dropped from the class. I may drop you, I may not. It's all up to me. Now notice this about all the classes that meet on the Navarre College campus. Okay, if you're meeting with me on the Navarre College campus, here's what's going to happen. At the beginning of class, you'll come in, and I'm going to either give you a little quiz based on a reading you've done, or I'm going to introduce an ethical, a logical fallacy principle, give you examples, etc. Give announcements. After I've done those things, I'm going to take attendance. Now, once I take attendance, I'm going to shut the door to the class, and you're more than welcome to enter the class, but you're absent. And again, remember, you're only allowed 4 absences. So therefore, my advice to you is being on time for the class. You have plenty of time between classes to get to my class, so therefore be on time. Now, dual credit Navarre College classes. All mine is this. I'll take attendance as students enter the class. Any student who arrives after attendance has been taken may enter the class, but still kind of absent. Okay? If you have a note from a teacher excusing you, that's one thing. If there's an emergency, I need to know what that is, but it needs to be a true emergency and not just kind of some kind of convenient excuse to be late for class. So be on time for your sake. You may have an excused absence. There are only 2 excused absences. One is if you have a doctor's note. For example, maybe somebody's pregnant and they need to go to this doctor. I need a doctor's note. They're more than willing to give you those notes. If there's a death of a close relative, grandparent, parent, spouse, sibling, child, etc., bring an obituary from the funeral of that close relative. Okay? Otherwise, if it's not excused, it'll be one of the 4, and the result is you can be dropped from the class. Now, not including absences, note that I will not drop a student from the class, but will if one of you asks me to, before the final drop due date, or if you receive 2 notices from me for disruptive behavior. Okay? And third is this, if you miss 2 weeks consecutively of assignments or of class. What about bathroom breaks? Can you leave during class to go to the restroom? Only if it's an emergency, and my advice is that you tell me beforehand if there is going to be an emergency. I mean, you're under some kind of situation, you need to let me know beforehand. Now, here's the deal. If you don't and you leave class, you may come back in, but you're going to become absent. Okay? Or not have disruptions in the class. It really does take people's minds off what's going on when they see people going in and out of the class. Also, it encourages others to do the same as well. You have plenty of time between classes. By the time the class starts, even take attendance to use the restroom. So please stay in class once you enter class. Let's talk about cell phones. Sometimes cell phones will be used during class to do assignments. And you can use either your cell phone, your laptop, or iPad to do those assignments. Only one of them. If I see two of them open, I'm going to count that as a cell phone violation, and that can be some serious trouble later on. So please, only use your cell phones when I tell you to, and when I tell you to use your cell phones or laptop, or etc., only use one at a time, put the other instruments away. Now, what happens when students violate their cell phone instructions? First of all, first time, I'm going to tell the student to put it away, and that student would get an email from me notifying them about the cell phone violation. Okay? Number two is this. The student will meet with the dean the next time that student uses a cell phone during class without permission, without authorization, and we'll have to meet with the dean before returning to class. Third time, I'll drop the student from the class. I'm not putting up with cell phones. Put them up. We're finding out that students are spending too much time on cell phones during class and they are not learning. And you're here to learn. But you may object. My parents are trying to get hold of me. Okay, well, here's the deal. You need to let your parents know when you're in class, and they are not to contact you during class. Okay? That is class policy. That is school policy. They're not to call you or text you during class. If they do text you, that's fine, but you're not to answer. They can call you, but you're not to answer. You need to let it go to voicemail. You can retrieve those calls and messages after class is over, but not during class. Emergency calls. If they're emergency calls, they are to do the following according to Navarre College policy. The person who says it's an emergency is to call the administration, and if it's a true emergency, the administration will come up and call you out of class for you to deal with the emergency. That is a standard policy, and there's no leeway on this, so please observe these guidelines. Furthermore, at the appropriate time, only see your cell phone, if we're going to be using it, or writing utensils, worksheets, allowed on the desk at the time, anytime. No backpacks. Please put those backpacks on the floor. Also, there's to be no working on assignments of the classes. If I see a student working on assignments of the classes, that student will receive be marked absent for that day and for a 0 on those days' work. You're to be not only in class, but also engaged in class. Next, we're going to show respect to one another in class. You need to expect me to respect you, and I'm going to expect you to respect me, and I'm going to expect you to respect others in the class. Let's not be yeah or no or anything like this. Let's get a yes or yes sir, no, no sir, etc. We are to respect each other. Now, why is that? Because you and I are very, very valuable. Now, there are some claims I'll be making throughout the course of the semester, and you know what? I've got to defend those claims. I'm not going to defend this claim today yet. This claim will be defended later. But suffice it to say, we're going to go on the assumption that we are all people of great value, and therefore we are to show each other respect. I will not tolerate people being disrespectful to one another. I've had this happen before. Students knew that I was a Christian, Roman Catholic, and they thought it'd be, I think it funny if they made fun of another religion. They found out very quickly I don't allow that. That's the only time I get really upset in class. So please, let's not be disrespectful to people and the claims. We can process them and challenge them, but we are going to do so respectfully. Now notice that I expect a lot from athletes in the class. If you're in any kind of sport, this goes also for other extracurricular activities, esports, also goes with debate, deals with drama, etc. I expect a lot from the class. Now, why especially athletes? First of all, many are on scholarships. And these scholarships, a lot of them are basically paid for by student fees, other students attending the college, and they help supply funds for that student's scholarship. Well, I think it's very rude for athletes to act up in class and hurting the learning experience for those who help pay for their class. That is not right. Number two is that athletes are looked upon in our nation and in the world in general as leaders. And so therefore, if Navarre College is going to have a good learning environment, it is incumbent, it is important that the athletes step up to the plate and show leadership, not only on the field, but also in the classroom, that they set they set the tone for the class. So if they see bullying going on, mocking going on, I'm expecting them to squelch that faster than even I would do as instructor. Okay, so I'm expecting a lot from the athletes in this class. Now let's look at the course syllabus, which you can find on Canvas. When you go to Canvas, basically you're going to have all these different items on the menu that you can choose from, and click on course syllabus. And then click on course syllabus is going to show you the syllabus here. Now, many of the items I've mentioned so far are found on the course syllabus. For example, the name of the class, meeting times, were there for you, which you should already know. My name, also my office hours. This gives you information about my office hours. I'll be meeting here in AV 207, which is on the second floor of the All-Britton building. Next, it gives you a description of the course, the objectives of the course. For example, critical thinking skills, communication skills, empirical, quantitative skills, etc. Outcomes of the course, things that you should be able to demonstrate after taking this course. Also required and optional materials from Plato to Plantinga. We've already talked about that. Now here's grading criteria. I know you're interested in this. First of all is this. You have a debate at the end of the semester. It'll count 15% of your entire grade. Next, you have a project that focuses on ethics in action. Actually, this project has been set for you. What you'll be doing is you'll be helping raising funds to help support and feed lepers in a leper colony in India. Lepers are people with leprosy. It's a terrible, terrible disease. We'll talk more about this later. Also, you have quizzes in class. Some will be taken out of class. They'll be open book, but they'll count 40% of your grade. There'll be a midterm exam. They'll count 15% of your grade, and also a final exam, which will count 15% of your overall grade. So please look at this breakdown and take it very, very seriously. Now look at this next paragraph. Already we've seen the grading criteria. If you keep going down further, you see this here in bold letters. Please take this very, very seriously. If you want to make an A in the class, you have to have two things. One, you must have a 90% overall grade average. Number one, okay? Number two is you must make an A on a 6-page double-spaced paper of ultimate reality, and I will provide writing templates. No student may make an A without an overall grade average of 90% and make at least an A- on the 6-page paper on ultimate reality. If you have a 90% plus overall grade average and do not write the paper, you'll make an 89 in the class. If you do not make at least an A- on the paper, but you have like a 99 in the class on other work, you'll get an 89 for the course. It is mandatory you make an A on the paper and at least an A- and a 90% plus overall grade average to make an A in the course. Now, if you don't want to make an A, don't write the paper. You don't have to write the paper. If you have a 95, you'll get an 89. Now, if you have below a 90, don't write it, because I will not look at it. I will not grade it. It will not be extra credit. It is only for those who want to make an A and who are eligible to make an A. Again, If you have below a 90, do not write the paper. I won't grade it. It will not count as extra credit. Look at academic integrity. In other words, we're looking at cheating. Ladies and gentlemen, don't cheat. If I catch you cheating on a quiz, an assignment, you'll get a 0 for that assignment. I'm being kind. I'm being generous. University of Texas, A&M, they will eject you from the class, expel you from the college. It can be very, very serious consequences if you cheat. If you write a 6-page paper on reality, you'll go through a plagiarism checker. And you know what? If you have plagiarized that paper, the result is you can get a 0 on that assignment and not get an A in the course. Please do not cheat. There's a lot of other information you look at here on the course syllabus. For example, students talking in your class receive a verbal caution, can end up being expelled from the class. Please be respectful. We went over this more in detail a little bit earlier, but again, all this is found in your course syllabus in addition to the PowerPoint presentation I showed you a moment ago. Ladies and gentlemen, let's just do this. Let's just decide to have a great semester. I think you are very special young people, and I hope you understand and come to find out even more throughout the semester how very special you are. Okay? Again, welcome to Philosophy 1301.